network media's latest innovation called blipvert, which was a microburst commercial. Now, this blipvert packed minutes of marketing pitches into just a few seconds on the screen. The network could now get more sponsors and be able to show them in far less time. This, in turn, offered the network unbeatable returns on investments for their advertisers.
Now, this initially looked harmless to Edison. However, he quickly found out that these blipverts had a negative effect on some people. What were these negative effects? Well, they caused some of the viewers' heads to explode.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Right?
Edison ended up breaking the story to the public to let them know, but was unsuccessful in doing it while inside the network's own building and had to quickly escape. So Edison got on his motorcycle and quickly drove toward the exit of the network's garage. However, the network ended up lowering the barrier on him, which caused him to crash.
Now, the network didn't want to kill him since he was still their biggest star. All they wanted to do was stop him. So the network's technology team decided to try and attempt to extract his consciousness and upload it into their mainframe.
Edison ended up surviving his injuries and still held on to his ideals of pursuing justice. However, the network didn't care. They had a copy of his consciousness and it became his digital doppelganger, which decided to call himself Max Headroom.
Now, since Max Headroom is digital, he is essentially able to jump from one program to another under the Media Network 23. However, that didn't last long because he quickly learned how to jump to any broadcast network anywhere in the world and disrupt whatever commercial was playing, just mocking and trolling during his interruption.
Max would even drop his own little knowledge nuggets during these interruptions that the higher-ups at Network 23, tried to keep him hidden. And there was like this elusive government shadow holding him down. So he pretty much became like a digital whistleblower in the movie.
That was pretty much the movie of Max Headroom. So the television series for Max continued and he became popular enough that they decided to use Max to be the spokesperson for Coca-Cola, telling the viewers to taste the wave to the new Coca-Cola.
So in early 1988, in the middle of its second season, the television series of Max Headroom got canceled, which in turn ended the sponsorship with Coca-Cola. But if Max Headroom at the time was so popular, why did his TV series get canceled? Well, that's what we're about to get into, which is the reason why it was canceled.
Okay, so now that we know how Max Headroom was created and what he or it, whatever you want to call him, was about, let's discuss the main event that the entire topic is about. The TV hijacking that caught the attention of everyone in the late 1980s. So, Aaron, can you start that off for us?
Absolutely. All right, so this all began on the night of November 22nd, 1987. It was just after 9 p.m., and WGN-TV was doing their nightly news broadcast. Sports anchor Dan Rowan was in the middle of going over the Chicago Bears highlight reel from earlier that day, and all of a sudden, without any warning, the television screen turned completely black and silent.
The silence lasted for about 15 seconds, and then the screen slowly came back on. However, it wasn't sports anchor Dan Rowan. It was a person wearing a rubber mask and sunglasses. The rubber mask looked just like the AI Max Headroom, and even the background where the person was sitting looked exactly the same as it was on the Max Headroom show.
As the background oscillated, the person on the screen wearing the Max Headroom mask was just rocking from side to side. Now, during this time, the only sound that was coming from this show was sort of like a buzzing noise. Now, this occurred for not even 30 seconds, and then the screen went black, and then the original scheduled television programming came back on.
Sports anchor Dan Rowan was initially confused and then said, "If you're wondering what happened, so am I. Actually, the computer that we have running our news from time to time took off and just went wild."
Yeah, Dan, that's not what happened. And I'm talking to the sports anchor, Dan, not you, Dan.
I know what happened.
So we do have the original video of that happening, which we're going to watch. And if you want to, you can go to our website, theoriesofthethirdkind.com, click on our references tab, and scroll all the way to the bottom till you get to Max Headroom, and it'll be the first video that's posted underneath that, and you can watch it too. It's fairly short. We'll have a link of it.
I mean, if you're watching the news and that comes on, you're just like staring at the screen like, what the hell is this?
Yeah, you're waiting to hear the news of the Bears and how well they did in the football game, and all of a sudden that comes on. You'd be like, what the hell?
So yeah, that was odd, and of course, WGN TV network stations started receiving many phone calls wondering what happened to the broadcast. However, they could only tell people that they were looking into what happened. As the engineers for WGN TV network were looking into what caused this interruption, the masked man struck again.
That same night at 11:15 p.m. Central Standard Time, the WTTW network was broadcasting the television show Doctor Who when it was suddenly interrupted. Now, WTTW wasn't as fast as WGN with taking down the broadcast because they didn't have any engineers on duty at the time. So needless to say, this interruption was quite a bit longer than the previous one.
So, as the interruption occurred, static began showing on the screen, and then the same masked man appeared. This time, there was audio, but it wasn't that great. It had a loud buzzing with it, but you could still kind of comprehend what was being said.
The individual was wearing the same rubber Max Headroom mask and looked like he was sitting down in a chair, audibly laughing. The individual then says, and I quote, "That does it. He's a frickin' nerd. He's better than Chuck Swirsky. Yeah, I think I'm better than Chuck Swirsky. Frickin' liberal."
He then begins to laugh, bends over to the side, picking something up, all while saying, "Oh, Jesus, here we go, yeah." He then holds up a can of Pepsi and says, "Catch the wave," and he throws the Pepsi can on the ground and then says, "Your love is fading."
Shortly after that, he starts humming what is believed to be the theme to Clutch Cargo. While humming, he points to the camera and says, "I still see the X," and then continues humming. He then stops humming, makes a whining noise, and says, "My files." Like he goes, "My files." He then shakes his head really quickly and then says, "Oh, I just made a giant masterpiece for the greatest world's newspaper nerds."
He then bends back over again and picks up a very old vintage baseball glove and places it on his hand. He then says, "My brother is wearing the other one. It's dirty. I'm going to put my fine off." And then he takes off the glove and tosses it away from him. Shortly after that, the shot switches to the masked man with his pants pulled down, his bare butt showing, and he says, "They're coming to get me."
In the right-hand corner of the screen is what looks like someone dressed as a maid and has like a fly swatter in their hands. That person then says, "Bend over, bitch," in which the Max Headroom individual does. The maid then starts spanking this individual on the buttocks with the fly swatter while the Max Headroom individual says, "Don't do it, no." Shortly after that, the screen goes completely black and it goes back to the regular programming of Doctor Who.
Now, just like the last one, we do have the original video of that. We will have a link to it on our website under the reference tab in case you just want to follow along. Also, just a heads up, the audio quality had quite a bit of buzzing in it, but it isn't that long, so adjust your volume accordingly. So we're going to play that right now.
Problem with the old ones of your tribe, but it's the only way to learn.
I'll get you a hot drink, miss.
I've seen some dry clothing.
Jesus.